The last time we ran a live one of these, I believe in early April, we had basically 400 or 500 entries. People who sent in their first lines and wanted Becca to critique them live. We didn't of course, get around to them because we'd just be finishing up right now. But instead, we're going to go on and just do a handful of them right now for you offline. There's going to be 2 of these, so if you want to catch the next one, just like and subscribe to the Reedsy channel, and you'll get a notification whenever the next one comes on. So, Becca, how have things been for you? I hear it's been raining quite a lot where you are.
It has been a rainy New England, almost spring. It snowed last week in the middle of April, so we're just waiting for sort of spring to come in force and bring warm weather and easement to staying inside all day. So today it's not too terrible. You can see in my 360 surround windows. So we're holding steady today. Today's a good day for it.
What better way to capitalize on a sunny day than to stay in and critique some first lines? You ready for this?
Like a good reader. Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. What I'm going to do is I'll paste them on here. As with them all, Becca hasn't seen any of these, so she's coming to these cold. She doesn't know what genre they're from, who they've come from. She may make a guess as to what sort of book they're from, but no need to. Anyway, here's your first one.
Off home to make a dirty martini. Well, this feels very British. Americans don't use the phrase off home to say on the way home. So I would venture a guess that this is a British author. I don't have real feelings about this, which is a problem, right? We want a first line to evoke feelings of intrigue and interest and sort of excitement about what's to come. And that can be done in a lot of different ways, but making a bold statement like, I'm going to make a martini is not really the way, I think, to draw people in. So I'd like to know more. You could tell me where you're leaving from, or whether it's particularly late, or how badly you need a drink. There's a lot to do with this, but it's not being done yet.
Okay, yeah, I think you got it about right. That's Tracy Goff from North Yorkshire. Tangled lives within the genre of women's fiction. So imagine, yeah, you're right. It's like a hard day at work. Off home to make a dirty martini.
Right, which is great, but I would rather, if there's humor here, if the day at work was especially sort of tiresome and there's a funny reason, or there can be a more dynamic reason to tell us this. So tell us.
Cool. Here's your next one.
They say we don't recall much of our childhood that occurred before the age of 7, but I remember everything about that year on the farm. So generalizations like, throughout history, or they say, what you're doing is calling on conventional wisdom and then in some way conflating it. And that's exactly what this author has done. They're saying, everybody says you can't remember this, but I can. Well, I think by getting more specific about what happened that year on the farm, even in sentence 1, you'll do a better job of driving home the inversion about, people say you can't remember, but you can. I also don't like this construction of that occurred before the age of 7. That, or constructions that mimic that was, are really problematic in prose for a lot of different reasons. And without getting into a boring grammatic lecture, which, I'm happy to do at another time, this sentence is better served by saying something like, they say we don't recall much of our childhood before age 7, but I remember everything about that year on the farm. So clean up the grammar a little bit and maybe give us a little bit more that year on the farm with the year on the farm that someone so-and-so died, or the year so-and-so disappeared from the farm. Give me just a little bit more specificity to show me how real the memories are, and clean up the grammar, and then I will like this.
Cool. That was The Lessons We Learn, Linda Luff, a memoir. Oh, what a coincidence. Well, not really. The first author was Tracy Goff. The second one was Linda Luff. Let's see what the next one brings us. Here we go.
Ill fortune is a disease no sailor would willingly be near. Okay, well, One does not draw close to a disease in this manner spatially, and so this doesn't make a lot of sense. Ill fortune is a disease no sailor would willingly. If we're talking about verbs that go with disease, then we might talk about the verb contract, but no one willingly contracts a disease anyway. This is a case of sort of a metaphor falling pretty flat. I like the idea of ill fortune as a disease, but because disease is always something people avoid, this doesn't land. So I would keep tweaking this. I think you're onto something. You just haven't gotten to the something yet. Excuse the sound of my children having lunch in the background. I'm sorry.
Is lunchtime always that noisy?
With a 2-year-old, it's noisy to have lunch.
Okay. I don't know. I was very well behaved, I was told.
I'm sure you were perfect, Martin. Actually, I've heard about how great you were at all meals under the age of 5.
Some people say that you can't remember meals before the age of 5, but
you totally can.
Okay, that was from 14th Deadly Ships by Gemma Fashion, science fiction. Okay, here's the next one that comes from a slightly less sci-fi setting.
Patricia Morgan walks with confidence along Queen Street West, one of the trendiest areas of Toronto. Okay. This is pure telling, so that's where we can start. Don't tell me that this is a trendy area of Toronto. Show me how stylish it is, or if we're sort of sending up the idea of a trendy area, you could sort of belittle the uber trendy shop names, or the store devoted to pressing wheatgrass shots, things like that. So there's ways to bring this to life in an evocative way that says trendy without saying trendy. There's no reason for us to know Patricia's last name, so you can leave that out for the time being. And you can also show me what it looks like to walk with confidence. Does that mean strutting? Does that mean Patricia, threw her shoulders back as she strutted along Queen Street West? You can show me all of this, but this is pure telling. And quite frankly, a line like this brings up some concerns for me about the level of the writing that I would find in the rest of the manuscript.
Okay, that's from A Gentleman in Disguise by Mary Hanlon. It's a romance novel.
Okay, I really like the title, especially for a romance novel. Okay, I like the title. The title wins. Title gets an A+.
Oops, sorry, just going to turn my phone on to silent. Next one up.
150 feet below the smog-choked metropolis of Shanghai, renowned computer scientist Andreas Kohler gasped for breath as a power hand clamped down hard over his mouth.
I'm actually going to change that, because looking at the genre, I don't think this is a power hand, which is like a sci-fi thing. So I think it's probably a powerful hand.
Okay, was this a typo in what was sent to you?
No, well, that was a power hand was what was sent to me. But looking at the details I have.
Yeah, we have to believe this is powerful and that was just a typo. Okay, well, then we've just made a good edit for this person, whoever they are, so you're welcome. So I guess when you set up a contrast between what is above and what is below, I'm always interested in that, right? This moment of violence or assault, we're not totally sure what it is yet, but it's happening below ground. And yet quite a lot of detail is devoted to articulating what's above ground and how far above ground it is. And I find that curious, and I don't know how to feel about it yet, because I would have to keep reading to know the significance of that. 100 is not hyphenated, and there is no and between the 100 space and the tens space when we are writing out numbers. So it's 150 feet below the smog-choked metropolis of Shanghai. Other than that, I mean, I think the construction of this sentence is really good. And like I said, I'm interested in that contrast between what is up and what is down, what is above, what is below. But I'm not sure what to make of it yet. I would 100% keep reading. I think this activates that intrigue that we're looking for in a first line, and I really like that.
Do you think it's intentional that there are sort of two sort of choking, gasping type words used in this one, or
maybe, right? Like I think when we're talking about separation between these spaces, but then we're linking them with this, kind of respiratory distress. I don't know what to make of it. I think what you are picking up on and what I am picking up on is that this author is paying attention and has big plans. And I feel very, as much as I felt sort of dissuaded by the previous first line that we looked at, I feel very much like I'm in good hands already from line 1 here. And I think that kind of authority in the narrative voice and in the tone is really, really important and quite difficult to capture.
Cool. That was from A New Order by Sarah Harvick. It's a thriller. Okay, we've got another one.
At last, the traffic lights change exactly as the woman in front of me collapses in a crumpled heap at my feet. So this is another moment of contrast, which I am quite fond of. So traffic lights change, signaling movement, just as a body, stops moving, right? Collapses, or, completes a movement that ends in stillness. So I think this is interesting. I don't know how I feel about this at last. We don't know how long the protagonist or, the narrator has been waiting for this light to change. And so I might consider getting a little bit more specific there if you can do it succinctly. They must be at some kind of pedestrian crosswalk, right? I mean, that is the only real possibility. And so I think you can say something more specific about the time of day or how long this person has been standing there or where they are. So you could do a little bit more, not too much. We don't want to overwhelm the reader, but I think we could do a smidge more and still have a really solid, clear sentence.
Cool. That was from Doctor's Orders by Mark Baker, a romance novel.
Great.
I'm already imagining the meet cute right there in the second sentence, perhaps.
I mean, maybe I don't know, is our MC a woman? Is this I don't know what kind of rom-com this is.
Yeah.
Rom-coms usually start in the POV. I want to say that they usually start in a female POV when there's two. But I can think of a couple that start from the male perspective. Not as many. Most of them really use that female perspective as the entry point. So I'd be interested in how that novel is working with voice. But that's another conversation for another time.
Nice.
I've always hated the Yankees. We do not create plural forms with apostrophes. I've always hated the Yankees with no apostrophe. So putting my first bullet through that stupid Yankees logo on Genos Hat was surprisingly satisfying. Well, I hope Gino wasn't wearing the hat when this happened. I think it's voicey, which is good. I don't see a reason to. So when you describe something without describing it, right? When I say Yankees logo, I'm assuming that my reader knows exactly what that looks like, but you would be better served by saying, so putting my first bullet through those stupid interlocked letters on a navy pinstripe, whatever. You can describe it instead of just saying the Yankees logo, because then you're making an assumption about what your reader knows, and that's not especially effective. So I also find stupid to be a particularly juvenile and ineffectual word. I don't know. It's always strange to open with a moment of sort of unexpected violence. And like I said, I assume Gino's not wearing the hat, but I guess we would find out. What's the genre on this?
Well, it's a thriller, so there's a good chance Gino might be wearing that hat.
Okay, so maybe Gino is wearing the hat. Yeah, sure. I thought there was a chance it was target practice, but
A book called Kansas City Mob Hitter, which suggests to me it could be something a
okay,
bit.
so he's definitely wearing the hat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, all right. Geez, Bev, we're supposed to be from Ohio. Starting out with dialogue is always tricky, right? Because there's no context here. And as far as dialogue goes, this is intriguing. Saying we're supposed to be from Ohio suggests that they're either pretending or I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. And I guess that's the point, right? I'm interested in this, but it might be better in paragraph 2 or at the end of a paragraph that tells me what's going on here. So I need more information, and I would start with that information and not with this dialogue.
Okay, that was from Loose Lips, a thriller by Pat Morris.
I feel like there's a lot of thrillers today, thrillers and romance today.
Yeah, well, that was actually a good spread of the people who actually submitted in. Like, it's interesting to see the sort of books people are writing. A lot of thrillers, a fair amount of romance, and a lot within the women's fiction area.
All excellent, all good escapist topics. The relentless tears of the sea stained Miras. Could this be a spelling of Mira, or do we think it's Miara?
Within the genre, this probably makes sense.
What, Mira?
Well, it's like a fantasy novel, so any spelling probably makes sense.
We have no idea. All right, so I'm gonna go Miara, even though I find this spelling extremely distracting, as you can tell. I haven't even gotten through the whole first sentence yet, and I'm already stopping to think about how to pronounce this name. So let's just take that as its own separate critique. The relentless tears of the sea stained Miara's cheeks, 20 years of waves smashing against the rock of her heart. Okay. I don't know what this means. It's very poetic and lyrical, but I don't know what it means. I don't know what it means to have 20 years of waves. Relentless tears of the sea. I think we're also running into the trouble of sea stained. Seems like it would be an adjective, but sea stained I find awkward. My brain is stuttering over a lot of this, and that's not a great sign. I suspect this is a very lyrical writer and one who does a lot of early world building, which can be okay. But for me, this is too vague and maybe a little too in love with its own poetry to be an effective first line.
That was from Cheryl Stansbury, a fantasy, with the lyrical title "Midnight at the Fountain of Joy."
Okay, I love that title. I really like that a lot. Yeah, it's okay to be a lyrical writer. Look, I mean, I stand for Erin Morgenstern. I devour The Starless Sea. I love lyrical writing, but you have to understand always that the purpose of your writing is to communicate an idea, and that idea has to be clear first and beautiful second. I was an English major too. I understand the appeal of beautiful prose, but prose has a function, and that function is communication and clarity. So clarity first, beauty second.
Cool. All right, let's try another one. We're just going to get a few more in. I'm going to try to keep these to about 20 minutes or so.
The Monday after my dad drank the Kool-Aid in Jonestown, Billy Pipes came pounding on my door. What a great first line, A+. Every gold star to this line. I love this. It's culturally alive. We've automatically dated this manuscript. We know exactly when it's happening. We know that the protagonist has experienced this recent loss, and we know exactly what it is. And then that grief is interrupted. So I love this. I wouldn't change a thing. It's perfect.
Cool. That is from Oh Darling, from Tanya Brooking, a comedic mystery.
Great. I wouldn't have guessed that would have been a comedic mystery, but it's a great first line. And I'll throw it back up. Can you throw it back up for a second?
Yeah, sure.
I want to say to everyone who's writing about a real historical moment that this is a great way to date your work without doing a lot of telling, right? This is just setting the tone and setting the stage without getting mired in news detail. Like, we don't need to know how much Wikipedia research you did about Jonestown. Not that this is an example of that, but this author isn't in a rush to let us know everything she knows. She's just using the historical record to establish her setting in a very efficient and really dynamic way, and I love it.
Cool. Here's another.
Pidge cleaned their spot and set everything right so they'd be ready to go when Dunk gave the word. This is for children, Martin?
Ish. To give you a hint, this is YA science fiction.
Okay. Pidge cleaned their spot and set everything right so they'd be ready to go when Dunk gave the word. Okay. I think we need more detail. Their spot is very vague. Set everything right is also very vague. So if you could take those phrases and replace them with more specific counterparts, I think this would be a more effective sentence. We're in a moment of preparation, and so I'm anticipating action really soon. And so the question also becomes, is this the right moment to enter the story? Or do we enter at the moment when Dunk gives the word, whatever the word is? So this could be the right entry, but get a little bit more specific. I think you can get more specific without dragging on the pacing here or doing anything, that will confuse. I think you can be a little more clear here without, impacting the general feel of the prose.
Okay. And
the sun is coming. The sun, see, the sun is happy about this. The sun wanted me to stay inside and do this today.
Sadly, it's just you have to spend it here with us. But thank you so much for doing this again. As I mentioned, we're going to do another one of these. It's going to come out a little bit later in the week. If you want to get a notification when that one turns up, just hit the subscribe button, hit like on this while you're at it. We'll have plenty more of these and Reedsy Lives coming in the future. Plenty of opportunities for you to get feedback from professionals just like Becca. Anyway, Becca, I'll catch you in a few days' time when we'll be posting our next video.
Sounds good.